I've been born ready.
Oh yeah, I wake up and piss X, but Hey guys, this is Retro Red,
Retro Blue.
and we just kind of wanted to do our first together voiceover on a game and a franchise that is quite honestly, literally part of our lives and probably yours as well.
I mean, it's always been there in the back since we were kids. Probably for you as well. Um, Little game released in the 90s, maybe 2000s. Was a Legacy of Goku? Was that was
It was
2000s?
2000, I think it was 2000 or 2001.
Yeah.
It was
So Game Boy Advance era.
yes, very much so.
Yeah.
Game Boy Advance era.
So that launched, and listen, that game is a great game. We've got a couple episodes on here on the channel with that, and
No, it's not.
probably not gonna continue.
Why? Why won't you continue? Such a great game. Share with the class, if you will, or pique my
I mean,
curiosity.
listen, I do love Legacy of Goku, I do, but it's for nostalgia purposes only. Legacy Goku 2 fixes everything that was wrong with Legacy Goku 1. So
I'm
we're not used to that these days of sequels fixing crap.
mine.
From the first
Honestly,
one, but-
no, because if you go back to the original NES days, like every major game franchise suffered from terrible twos.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. We're not used to that. So, but this series did fix it. And Legacy of Goku 2 plus Boo's Fury and Boo's Fury is immaculate. I can't wait to get to it.
One thing I will say though, like Legacy of Goku gave us something that we had never had before. And we
Right.
had, I mean, granted, I mean it's overplayed nowadays.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Back
Today,
then, we had your typical games like the Game Boy Color game. It's kind of like Legacy of Goku 2 or 1, and it's not. This is a game where you actually physically go on an adventure, and you get to do the events, the major events of Goku. And granted, yes, it suffers from early GBA game, but I mean, it was there. The foundation was there.
so me and you are here in 2024, just like everybody else listening. We've been through the story of Dragon Ball time and time and time and time and time and time again, right?
Yeah.
Through basically every game they release, we do the same story, right?
Yep.
So that's great and all, but imagine yourself as a 9-year-old, 10-year-old kid in the United States back in 1999, 2000, 2001. This hasn't been done before.
And no, you're right. And
So this hasn't been done before. So we're watching this, and to a lot of people at this time, especially 2001, 2003, whatever it is, that area, we haven't lived this story completely yet.
and
So
what is unique about these games? And me,
this is the first run of that story in video games.
me and
I
you have
love that.
discussed this quite a bit. Like, I really wish this would get like a remastered. And I know we kind of got it through
Definitely.
Kakarot, but Kakarot does
Yeah.
not really give you what these games do. I mean, for the most part, you're
Yeah.
just Kakarot. And these games, you play through. You literally just you start in Legacy of Goku 2. You start honestly the events right after the Namek saga, and it's just really cool.
But it's the same story again and again, just like in one of our favorite series. I know is the Budokai Tenkaichi 3.
Yeah, Budokai. Yeah,
Yeah. So that series, the Budokai series, was amazing on what PS2 is what
yeah.
it was.
Budokai 3 is just a fucking
So-
beast.
Amazing. That intro is just fantastic. But those games, right? So, but it's the same story again and again and again and again. So I get it for all of it. Me and you are just weird desensitized, bro. We're out of it. We are done. We're burnt. We are burnt because we have lived 30 years of it, right? But if you can rewind that 30 years and look at it again through that first view, that first lens of what the hell is this?
It, for me,
It's Dragon Ball.
These type of games, and not just honestly, not just Legacy of Goku in general, but I'll use the GBA as an example. And don't get me wrong, the DS and the 3DS was great, but the GBA gave us games because us 90s kids or 2000 kids, when you got a GBA, that was it. You most likely didn't have a GameCube or whatever, but
It's one or the other.
we unfortunately now live in the day and age to where handheld is gone. We can say the Switch is handheld all you want, but at the end of the day, it's a home console you get to travel with. It's not handheld. When we came and grew up, or maybe you, for example, if you had a home console, that was it. If you had a handheld, you got an entire different set of series games versus your home console.
Yep. You could take that anywhere.
And unfortunately, nowadays, Switch 2, whatever you want to call it, that may be coming out next, it still is going to suffer from the same thing. If you get a new Dragon Ball game, it's not going to be a Legacy Goku style. It's going to be like a Kakarot style, which is not bad. It's not bad by any means.
Right, but it's not the same
But
experience.
we are technically living in the day and age to where we'll never get Dragon Ball Super Legacy of Goku. I mean, or you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
We won't get to continue the end of Z in a GBA or a handheld format. It's just going to be,
what it is.
what it is. I hate keep using Kakarot, but that's the most we got to
I get it.
really represent what the Legacy of Goku games became. But
see, in my mind, it's just following along that same style as give us Super in Boo's Fury style.
Now-
like it's possible. People are doing it today, making 2D games and making them 3D. Look at the Power Rangers game coming out this year. Like, that's amazing. Just looking at it, how they're doing that art style with that 2D style and incorporating 3D in it. So, I mean,
I've
there's
said
no
this,
limit.
and this is one of those things. I've said this when I was a kid. Nobody will ever believe me. The Dragon Ball FighterZ game. It's numerously popular nowadays. I created that game when I was in my early middle school years. In my head, obviously, I didn't physically create it, but it was a concept idea that I had.
Came to fruition.
I wish we keep that format, but put all the freaking Shonen Jump characters in it. That's something I don't understand. And maybe I'm kind of derailing from what the episode is we're talking about, but it's more Dragon Ball still, regardless. But could you imagine? They had a trial run of what I'm talking about, and I can't remember the name of the game. I think it might have been Jump Stars, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. But it was terrible. It was a terrible game. It was your typical 3D fighter. It aged terribly. Online capabilities was ass. You're telling me we can't make a 2D, 3D fighting game where I can be Yusuke Urameshi throwing out a spirit gun followed up with the Kamehameha? No, seriously, come on now. Bandai Namco, if you can't give me a Legacy of Goku game remaster, give me a new fighting game. Please. Please, we'd all appreciate that.
We'd all appreciate
I mean, I just think that'd be... You want money? There's your money!
I mean, let's see what they do with that Power Rangers game.
Listen, I've told you this 1,000 times over. That Power Ranger game... People who are happy about that game, they should be thankful for the fact that Streets of Rage 4 came out. Because that game proved that beat 'em up genre is not dead. Because Streets of Rage 4 came out, we got Turtles. We got the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And because
from the success of that,
we got Power Rangers. And tell me otherwise.
And so that's something that you and I had talked about for at least the last couple of years, I know, was getting a new Power Rangers beat 'em up in some sorts. And we got the Turtles, and we were all about that. And then we just kept talking about, hey, wouldn't it be awesome if they just did this, but with Power Rangers?
I'm thinking about it now.
Now we get Rita's Rewind coming out this year.
I bet you that project was being worked on for
during that time we were talking about
once
it
and
for sure.
always. because it's kind of coincidental.
Yeah,
that
that both kind of shared.
now
the
that I
same
think
thing.
about it, that's
Yeah.
pretty crazy. But we could talk about Power Rangers.
digress. Yeah.
We could talk about Power Rangers until you turn blue to the face.
Yeah,
But the
yeah.
moral of the point: Dragon
Yeah.
Ball Z Legacy of Goku 1 gave us the 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 foundation of what we wanted. Granted, if you're 9 years old and that's all you got, guess what? That's the best damn game you got.
You see, back in 1998, 99, like, you were holding on to Toonami, which was giving you the episodes weekly, every night, right? It was every night, just about, I felt like. And we got up to the end of the Frieza saga, and it was just like a 4-year break, is what it felt like. Okay, I'm like 9 years old,
And then it would start all over.
It felt like it was 4 freaking years, and they just would replay the old episodes, and you're like, oh my god, this is great. But what about Goku snapping? Like, what? Like, they lead off on like Krillin blowing up, and then it's just Goku, for 30 seconds, and then next time Dragon Ball Z, and now I have a beard, and my voice has dropped. Like, what?
Legacy of Goku 2 is a game I unfortunately missed out on when it came out. And I know I'm probably going to make a lot of people mad for saying this. I didn't watch the Cell Saga when it came out. I, for some reason, some way, somehow, went Frieza boo. I hated the first half of the Android Saga. I hated the Android Saga.
I guarantee you saw episodes of the damn Garlic Jr. bullshit fill-in episodes.
I most likely did.
And then just fell out of it, like a lot of people, I'm sure did. Because I'm telling you, those episodes of the Namek Saga on Toonami were not missed. Like, we were watching that shit. I was, and this is like 98, 99. I'm up at night, 12 o'clock. Like, it's Toonami's 12 o'clock block. I'm watching it. And
I often tell myself, and you obviously may be different, but popular animes nowadays that I don't watch, like One Piece, there's just so many damn episodes, and there's a lot of filler. Bleach is another example of that.
yeah, I never got into either.
I tell myself, in all truth, if I was to freshly watch Dragon Ball Z, never seen it before, but started watching it now, it'd be very hard to watch.
It'd be intimidating.
Because the filler episodes freaking suck.
Yeah, they do.
And they are way too long.
Yeah, there's a lot of staring and just a bunch of dumb shit.
And
so, honest to God, if I was to ever, like, if you've never seen Dragon Ball Z in your life, the one thing I would turn them to is Dragon Ball Abridged. I would start them at episode 1 and just give them like 20 episodes and be like, watch that. And if you're not hooked by episode 20, then it's not for you.
I can see Abridged being a good opener for Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
Because early Dragon Ball Abridged is a little rough, but it's still funny enough to keep you engaged.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas Dragon Ball Z, it's, of course, falling off Dragon Ball, but Dragon Ball Z opens up pretty strong. I'll give it that. But the whole Snake Way shit sucks.
Yeah, it's like we said, the filler. It's just a bunch of filler. The manga is not like that. That's the amazing thing. So if you love the anime, you should read the manga because it is not like that. There's no filler to it. It's straight to the point, and the story moves along way better than it does in the anime.
It would be really neat. Of course, this is just me thinking, wishful thinking. The days of the GBA, we got games like Dragon Ball, and of course Yu-Gi-Oh! It kind of loosely followed the show. And there was other animes out there like Shaman King. Of course, I don't know if you ever heard of that. It's a pretty neat anime. But what is the founding animes nowadays? My Hero. Could you imagine My Hero Academia in the Dragon Ball Z Legacy format, or Demon Slayer? That'd be freaking dope.
I mean, it could be done, and I'm sure people out there have done it. There's no telling.
Listen, if there is, please send me a link for that,
Send
because
us
I would love to play it.
download for that.
I mean, but Legacy of Goku 2 really changed.
I mean, the first game. Listen, the first game was fun to a child, as I was. It was not fun playing through, and then I lost a lot of data, and it was just not worth playing through again to continue. I'm
Part
sorry.
Part
So
2 came out in 2004, if I remember correctly. And the early days of GBA games were really either hit or miss. There was no in between. And you
yeah,
can tell those 4 years Nintendo was really, and not just Nintendo, but companies was really experimenting and getting better and better.
but but the thing is that it's crazy that the Nintendo, like the Game Boy Advance, even happened because towards the mid '90s, the Game Boy was, I mean, damn near dead in the water. And that was the thing for Satoshi with Pokemon was people were telling him, "You're releasing it for the Game Boy. We don't really expect it to do well because the Game Boy's on a downtrend." Like,
And
and then from that you get the Game Boy Advance, the SP, the DS, 3DS.
well,
You know,
if you look at it,
you can honestly say that Nintendo's success through the '90s, mid '90s on, is thanks to Pokemon.
and
And if it
plus,
was not for Pokemon, Nintendo probably would have been GM
if you look at it too, I mean, if you look at
bankrupt.
the rise of the internet, Game Boy in your hand, if you're watching this video in your hand right now, it's probably a cell phone. Why in the Sam's hell would you play a Game Boy Color when you have a cell phone in your hand? Why would you? The major success of the Game Boy Color, GBA, SP, DS
I mean,
was
it came in a time when you didn't have access. To
exactly kids didn't have nothing else to really turn to. YouTube obviously was still relatively new. Social media was still kind of in the wishy-washy. God, you remember MySpace?
that.
I want-
Wherever Tom is, thanks for being my friend.
I still got to tell you a story about MySpace afterwards.
I remember we all learned how to code a little bit back in the mid 2000s.
I just remember what you and somebody else did that got somebody's mom to call me and threaten me.
What? Oh, this is awesome because I have no idea what you're talking about.
It was when I came over and visit during the summer breaks. You and Dingleberry made me a MySpace, and I had told you about a girl I had a crush on.
Uh-huh.
So you made me a MySpace. I didn't know about it. That's the
Yeah.
bad part about it. You made me a MySpace without telling me you made me a MySpace and sent that girl a friend request. I swear to God. I swear you can
So
even.
we were catfishing.
Well, I get a phone call from that girl's mom threatening to call the cops on me. And I remember it plain as day because my dad comes into my room and said, "Son, what's wrong?" And I said, "This woman threatened to call the cops on me." My dad said, "Well, that's your problem. I don't even know what it's about."
Well, that's either hilarious or in terrible taste. I don't really know which is which, but I have no recollection of any of that. If I have,
I hope not, because we was like 15, 16, wherever that was. Whenever MySpace was out.
yeah, no memory of any of that. So, if that was the case, apologies
Oh, I think
profusely.
I mean, it's funny as hell. I was just getting a random phone call, but anyways. But
Was that before the drugs or after?
before.
Well, then I really can't tell you.
No, the GBA to me is like the Super Nintendo for me. I think the Super Nintendo is the best system ever created. And honestly, the GBA is a walking handheld Super Nintendo. I would love to see Legacy of Goku in the Super Nintendo format. I think that would be the fucking dopest thing ever.
So you want to take a step back?
First of all, The Super Nintendo sounds way better than the GBA.
Okay, well, we're talking about sounding. Yeah, sure, whatever. Graphics department wise,
It's the fucking same. I'm talking about the sounds, the sound effects, the tunes.
Not bad.
You're damn right it's your bad.
We were talking about the sound effects.
You just gotta play more Super. Oh, that's right. Pokemon and NASCAR.
Shit.
If there's
Did I hear it check?
Can somebody make a ROM hack of Pokemon NASCAR?
Listen, you give me a NASCAR with some Pokemon sponsorship on it, I am all over that.
You know what? I'm surprised there's not a Pokemon racing game. Speaking of it,
that is also very surprising.
Like a Pokemon go-kart game.
Yeah,
Hell, everybody else threw the fucking dart in the wall.
They never went down that route, did they?
I mean, with the Pokemon Snap.
I mean, taking pictures of Pokemon is cool.
It is, but could you imagine driving a go-kart with Pikachu?
I mean, aren't you essentially driving a go-kart?
You're riding in
Pokemon Snap?
Whatever the little hover thingy is with... Is his name Snap? What's his name?
Hell, maybe. I don't remember,
man. Huh.
I think it is Snap. I think you're right.
I think it is Snap.
Guys, we're going to go with Snap. That's his name. So
Snap.
Snap back.
See, speaking of Pokemon Snap's another game I didn't play until I was way in my 20s.
Really?
Really.
Dang.
It just never really appealed to me that much. Don't get me wrong, Blockbuster. God rest his soul.
Yeah.
I remember that kiosk for the Pokemon Snap printing out your stuff. I thought that was really cool. But at the same time, we were really poor, so whatever Dad wanted to play is what we got to buy.
Right.
So, I mean, it just so happened, damnedest thing, Dad didn't like Pokemon Snap, so damn, I didn't get Pokemon Snap. I'm just glad he likes Smash Bros.
At least your dad played games. I mean, that's cool. But I had the ability to go in and get 2 games in a movie every week. Every week, that's what I got to do. So,
we
2 games in a movie. And usually it was Rampage and GoldenEye for a while, Pokemon for a good minute.
Speaking of, I don't rarely ever remember renting N64 games.
Really?
It was my dad, if he wanted to buy a game or play a game, he just outright bought it.
Oh, yeah. No, we went to the Food City, man.
Now, don't get me wrong.
N64 games on rent.
I tell you, I remember this. My dad had Final Fantasy VII for the PS1. And I remember, for some reason, his second disc wouldn't read. And I remember my dad rented Final Fantasy VII and swapped the disc out. And his worked now, all of a sudden, but the one he sent back apparently didn't.
That's crazy, yeah.
But see, the crazy thing is, my dad's copy was a brand new copy, but for some reason his second disc wouldn't read. There was nothing wrong with it. And I remember him saying, I'm gonna go rent this game and I'm just gonna conveniently and I was like, Dad, okay.
Crazy.
But no, we rented PS1 games like there's no tomorrow. Never N64 games. We were, oh my god, I remember playing Mario Party 1, 2, 3. Of course, this is about Dragon Ball Z, and I'm talking about fucking Mario Party, but Mario Party 2, where is that, dog? I don't know, I mean...
Kids today will never know the love of going into a video rental store and renting N64 games and videos and popcorn and candy. And
honestly, we talk about the good things about renting, but we never talk about the anxiety about it. Because you're told, hey, you get one game, one movie.
Listen, man, you better rewind, okay?
And if you don't pick out that right game, you just suck that shit up and just play it.
Yeah, for 2-3 days, a week, whatever it was.
I think it was like a weekend or something. Some places was a week.
I don't know. We did our shit at Food City, so
we had
City.
We had Blockbuster and Hollywood Video, and I remember.
In later years we did Blockbuster.
We didn't rent movies from Food City.
Mom, all I know was I grew up in a food stamp happy house.
So,
So Mom would go to the store, like I go every other weekend or whatever, and get with Mom, and we go to the Food City, and she'd stock up on shit, and she'd be like, go to the video store, get you 2 games in the movie, and I'd be like, all right. So here I go, and then I go get 2 games in the movie.
damn, that really blows my mind now that I think about it, because I don't really ever remember renting N64 games. That's really strange.
That's how I got into a lot of stuff, man. Was just renting. Like I remember, I got, um, of course, Rampage. Again, I remember that one a lot. Cruising USA did that one a lot, but that was because that one and what was the Game Boy game?
Which one? There's hundreds.
It was a fighting game.
Killer Instinct?
Killer Instinct was a arcade game there at the mall.
How did I know it was Killer Instinct?
Yeah, so played Killer Instinct, Mortal Kombat, that kind of stuff at the mall, and then I seen them at the arcade rental store at the Food City. It was like, so I got them, and then we got a Sega Genesis, and we got N64, and then
You missed out the best fighting game ever made,
we had
Street
a
Fighter.
SNES, a bunch of stuff.
Well, unfortunately, we've severely derailed from the Dragon Ball Z type thing.
Yeah, well, all these things kind of predated that and just kind of bled into this. Of course, DBZ was going on well within the 90s when we were born. So by the time we were old enough to know shit from shit,
I'm trying to.
Dragon Ball Z was on Toonami. And that was really, and I've studied that, Toonami was the breakthrough in the West for anime. And it was Dragon Ball Z, Sailor Moon, and some other anime.
I'm really bothered by the fact that we never rented N64 games.
You missed out, man.
Well, I really didn't, but
Oh, you did.
No.
So,
we had all the bangers. We had Mario 64. Dad really loved Mario Kart. We had Pokemon Stadium. I can't remember where we got Smash Bros.
so instead of renting them, your dad was just like, I'm going to just straight buy them.
Yeah, he really did. I guess because we all played. It was the few times, which is kind of sad to say out loud, but me, my dad, my sister, and my mom would all play. We would all gather.
That sounds way better than my story,
4
man.
ports.
That sounds way better.
Well, I mean, obviously,
Just me playing them.
you know the
just got a
backlog.
whole family playing. That's
But-
dope.
Yeah, Dad went out and I guess he really liked the Nintendo. But man, he did not let us touch that PlayStation.
I don't think
Hell
my dad
no.
touched the game since the Atari 2600 or whatever the hell it was.
Like I
Back
said,
in the 70s.
like I've stated before, I was very fortunate that my dad was into video games. It was like having an older brother who was also my dad. But it was really fun. Dad got me into Dragon Ball Z. I do know that. Of course, obviously, he doesn't know shit about it now. Which, why would he? He's pushing 60. But
Well, it's in front of us.
this is how you can go from making a point A about Dragon Ball and saying 90s. Remembering the 90s.